One interesting study that I found about New Year's resolution, it's like, setting a goal for the beginning of the year, right? One research study showed that 159 participants participated in this study. With the New Year's resolution, 29% have fallen off track within the first 2 weeks. And I think that's probably often the case. So what they found in the study essentially is there are three different important factors in achieving goals. So are you ready? The readiness to change. Are you ready to take that leap? Do you have the necessary skills? And do you believe in yourself, self-efficacy, right? So in terms of readiness, are you able to move beyond just thinking about the New Year's resolution or the goal? Are you ready to take the step? And are you willing to acknowledge the problem and take action? Because a lot of the time we have, including myself, like wishful thinking, but how do you make the wish, turn wish into an actual goal and make it happen, right? The second element is skills to change, your ability to monitor and manage your goal-directed behavior. And sometimes it's the avoidance behavior, right? Procrastinating or not being able to overcome obstacles. So we're going to talk about that later on. And are you able to replace the behavior that are problematic with a productive behavior? Instead of just saying, oh, I'm going to stop this, that might not stick. So what you want to try doing is replacing with something else that's more productive and helpful. And the third is confidence in ability to change behavior and maintain success. So positive thinking is important. And I'm going to show you how to use practical strategies and statements to be able to achieve your goals today. So have you guys heard of growth and fixed mindset? So here is a video that I'd like to show you. Okay, so we'll watch it for a few minutes.
If you operate in the world of sports or education, you've most likely heard of the term growth mindset. It's a concept that's sweeping the world and changing and improving the way that people learn. This powerful idea has been pushed forward by Stanford professor and best-selling author Carol Dweck.
For decades, I've been studying why some people succeed while people who are equally talented do not. And over the years, I've discovered that people's mindsets play a crucial role in this process.
These mindsets are really important when it comes to learning. Her work has uncovered two ways of thinking about skill and development. Some people have what's called a fixed mindset. They believe that skills and intelligence are set and you either have them or you don't. That some people are just naturally good at things while others are not. In short, they believe that you are not in control of your abilities. Other people have what's called a growth mindset, and they believe that skills and intelligence are grown and developed. So people who are good at something are good because they built that ability, and people who aren't are not good because they haven't done the work. In short, they believe that you are in control of your abilities. Really, the core idea here is people with a fixed mindset believe that skills are born. People with a growth mindset believe that skills are built. People with a fixed mindset believe that you can't or don't have to learn and grow. And people with a growth mindset do believe in their capacity to learn and grow. Dweck's work shows that mindsets have a major influence on people's ability to learn, and that people who utilize this growth mindset tend to learn, grow, and achieve more over time than people with a fixed. Growth mindset really creates a solid foundation for great learning. And because of its power, companies, sports teams, and schools from all over the world are implementing this into their culture. Over the years, we've worked with a ton of amazing groups to help instill this within their culture. We're talking Fortune 500 companies, lots of colleges, lots of high schools, and even a few prisons who are working to build growth mindset into their reentry program. What I'm trying to say is this is bigger than one study or one TED Talk. This is a powerful concept that's helping lots of different people in lots of different places. Now, the reason it's so important and powerful is it is the foundation for learning. And if you understand this, no matter what you build on that foundation, it will be more powerful. But to really implement and run with this concept, we need to zoom in and look at the nuts and the bolts of it. We need to talk about what it actually is and how it actually works. Through years of work, Dweck and her team have uncovered sort of the defining characteristics of the two mindsets. This table really illustrates the contrast between the two. The first big characteristic we need to talk about is belief. Again, people with this fixed mindset believe that skills are born and therefore they can't or don't have to learn. People with a growth mindset believe that skills are built, therefore they can learn. The second major characteristic is focus. People in a fixed mindset tend to focus on performance and outcomes and results. In other words, their main focus, their main concern becomes how they look, and more specifically, to not look bad. People with a growth mindset tend to focus more on the process of getting better, of learning and growing. These mindsets and these characteristics have a huge influence on our ability to learn. And now we start to see why. Let's look at like the 4 key ingredients to growth: effort, challenges, mistakes, and feedback. The research shows that when somebody is in a mindset, they look at effort as a negative thing, as something that you do when you're not good enough. They also don't see the value or purpose of putting in effort. They've been shown to back down and avoid challenging situations. They get really discouraged and worked up when they make mistakes. And when somebody with a fixed mindset receives feedback from a parent, a teacher, a coach, or a friend, they get defensive, they take it personally, and they don't see value or purpose of the feedback. So in other words, people with this fixed mindset actually avoid and shy away from these 4 key ingredients to growth. Dweck and her team have shown that when people enter a growth mindset, they look at effort as a useful thing, as an important part of the learning process. They're actually more likely to embrace challenges and persevere and work through them. They see mistakes as learning opportunities, and when they receive feedback, they actually appreciate it and use it. Now, the fascinating and important part of this table is to connect the dots between these key characteristics of the two mindsets and our actions and behaviors towards learning. Let's look at the fixed mindset side first. They actually shy away from putting in effort because they don't believe that they can change. They give up when they're met with a challenge and things get hard because they don't want to look bad. So in their mind, the challenge becomes a threat, and they don't believe that they can change. They hate making mistakes and are discouraged by mistakes because if you're making mistakes, you're not looking good. And they don't see the value or purpose of feedback because they don't believe in their capacity to grow. So in one way or the other, every single one of these actions is a byproduct of these characteristics. And the same is true on the growth mindset side. They see the value and purpose of effort because they believe capacity to grow. They're more likely to take on a challenge and persevere through it because they believe that they can grow and because they're focused on the opportunity to do that. So they frame a challenge as an opportunity to get better. And by focusing on the process and believing in their capacity to grow, they're more likely to understand how important mistakes are in this process. And when they receive feedback from a parent, teacher, coach, or friend, they're more receptive to this because their focus is on getting better and because they believe that that information can help them grow and they have the capacity to do so. 2 key points with this table. First, you're not just one or the other. This is a spectrum. And in different times, on different days, in different situations, you might be in a growth, while other times you'll slip into a fix. Now that we understand how it works and we understand the characteristics, you can start to identify where you're at on the spectrum and, more specifically, the cause of that mindset. Is it our beliefs or is it our focus? Second, yes, these actions of learning are great, and they're definitely behaviors that we want. But we have to understand that they come from our mindsets.
So as you can see, the way we think, our beliefs and focus has powerful impact on and things that you're working on. So that's something that that's really good to be mindful of. Are you focusing on your mistakes and maybe your shortcomings? Are you worried about maybe even making mistakes and looking like you're not as intelligent? maybe that's not the best word, but instead of focusing on that, what you want to try to do is to focus on the growth mindset, right? And I'm going to show you some tools and strategies that you could use to reframe your mind towards the end. Okay, so being aware of this is really, really important. So when we look at hope, why is hope so important? I know in university, we're constantly talking about IQ and who's smart and who's not and whatnot. Hope is really important because one research showed that hope had more impact on academic performance, achievement, self-worth, and confidence for students compared to IQ, right? So hope is really, really powerful. And hope leads to engagement in learning. So students are actually interested in participating and being really active in their learning, constant planning towards their goal, right? Constant monitoring and progress to stay on track. So let's take a look at how we could build hope, right? So hope consists of, and this is from work by Snyder, he's a researcher, and hope is, think of it as like a want power. What do you want, right? And it consists of what, way, and will, right? So what do you want to achieve? What are the outcomes? And I don't know if you heard about the SMART goals strategy. What are the goals that you could set that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely? When you're thinking about way, how could you achieve your goal, right? So what are some pathways? What are some actions that you could take to achieve your goal? And what are the necessary resources? Because you're not, we don't expect, no one expects you to do everything alone. There are lots of great supports at our department as well as other services on campus. So what are some necessary resources? And if you're not aware of some of the resources, feel free to get in touch with ANCC and we'll be able to connect you and refer you as well. And what are your beliefs? Do you have belief in your ability? So, thinking of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. One way to do that is by thinking of a challenge, right? That you have to overcome. It doesn't necessarily have to be in an academic setting, because often I meet with students and they may be really difficult and hard on themselves and say, I'm this and I'm that. But once I start asking them about, what are some strengths that they have or some difficult challenges that they overcame, what kind of skills they use, then they're able to share that, right? So think of those skills and strengths and see how you could apply them in setting, like for example, in your academic setting, if you have an academic goal, right? Because that shows that you have these skills and strength in you. It's just the matter of transferring it to a different setting and different situation. And the fourth strategy is to get motivated. So essentially thinking about planning for obstacles. And I think a lot of us may be aware already of what kind of obstacles we might have, whether it's like physical distraction when we're trying to study, or maybe like inner thoughts, like constant interruptions or thinking negatively, right? And you remember one of the beliefs, one of the slides that we looked at, the power of positive thinking, right? So how do you reframe things in such a way so that you're able to think more positively? And also creating if this happens, then I will do that, right? So for example, like, if you're thinking about social media getting as one of your obstacles, if I feel like going on social media, then I will get up and stretch for a few minutes. So every single time you're tempted to go on your social media, you take a little quick break or take a walk or short water break, you're able to come back instead of wasting tons of time on social media and then get back to studying, right? So what we're going to try to do is today, we're going to think of these, use a strategy to come up with, what is your SMART goal? What actions plan to achieve your goals, and what are some resources that are available? What are some challenges that you overcame? What kind of skills and strengths you have used? And what are some if and then obstacle plan statements. And it's really important to have goals that you want to strive towards. And I think, especially learning in an environment, online learning environment, motivation could be quite challenging. So it's really important to set your mind to what you want to achieve, and that's really important. And I think another thing that students struggle with is the mindset, right? I hope it's big enough, if right. So this is actually a table of mind over chatter talking back sentences. So original sentence starts, a lot of these sentences on the left-hand side, the way it starts is very negative, right? Whether it comes to motivation, your mindset, worrying, regret, or judgment, if your tendency is to say, I have to, I need to, and a lot of times we say, I should, I can't have, worrying, what if I do this a lot? I worry quite a lot about different kind of things, and doubt whether I could I handle it or not, right? Sometimes regret and judgment, I'm so this, I'm never gonna do this, and whatever. The idea is, if you tend to use those sentences a lot, take one of the reframing tagline. So instead of saying all those negative things, you could say, I choose to blank because blank. I can't yet. And having that word yet really helps you to reframe it and think, I can't do this yet, but I'm going to try this. And, remember looking at the growth mindset versus fixed. If you can't do it yet, then, you're not thinking about just making mistakes, but you're also willing to try it and learn from your mistakes, or down, if you're having challenges or difficulties, right? And then if you're worrying, you could talk positively and say, I can handle it. The most likely outcome is blank, and then I can, right? So also creating those kind of obstacle plans. And a lot of the times we may jump to conclusions, right? Like, especially when we're worrying, and instead of saying that, what's the worst thing that could happen, right? And usually it's usually worse in our mind than what it actually is. So you could try to reframe it. So use this one of those the taglines, and you could have this, like, whether you print it or have it somewhere handy so you could refer to it easily. So I would encourage you to do that.